Welcome to the April class of Making the Most of Your Die Cutting Machines. This month we're going to be working with the Silhouette's Print and Cut feature. The first thing I'm going to do, and it's the first thing I always do when I'm working with a Silhouette project, is I open all of the images that I am going to use or that I think I'm going to use. So in this case I'm going to open up, or I already opened up the phrase that I was going to use. And I'm in my library and I just typed in awesome because I knew there were these tabs that said awesome and it brought it right up, so I'm going to drop that in. I am also going to open an image of clocks. And all these images in the Silhouette store, if you're looking for print and cut, there's a tab at the top that says print and cut, or you can look next to each individual image and there'll be a little P next to the print and cut images. Just need to resize that a little bit so I can open up the rest of my images that I'm going to use. I'm going to type in tag. I know there is a print and cut tag that I want. Probably should have been a little more specific with which one, but this will get me there. And it happens to be here on this first page. And you can see these all kind of coordinate well together. So I'm trying to pick things that'll look good together. Now, also, I had not chosen the appropriate settings when I made a new document, so I'm going back to the document settings and I changed it to letter size and I clicked the Use Registration Marks box. It's very important when doing a print and cut. I'm going to move everything out of the way now so you can see what that screen looks like. You can see that there's some grayed out areas. You don't want to put any of your images in that particular area or it will not print or cut. So you want to keep it within that red bounding box and make sure you don't put it in any of those gray areas. I like to choose the grid settings, and I'm just going to click Show Grid and going to make the spacing an inch. This way I can it gives me a better idea of what size these things are going to be. Obviously on the screen, without that, they look fine, but they're going to print and cut huge. So this gives me a much better visual of what they're going to look like. So I'm making the tabs about 3/4 of an inch tall. Just from experience from cutting these before, I know that's kind of what I like. With the clocks, I'm going to go ahead and click on them, and these are individual, so this is kind of nice. You can get rid of some of them if you don't want to use them, all kinds of things. But first I want to open up, I know that there is this border, it's a circle border. So I'm going to look for it real quick, and I just typed in circle in the search engine there, and scrolling down a bit, I think I've passed it. I need to go back up. Let's see here. And it's not this one, it's this one right here. I'm going to click on it and I'm going to bring it into my software. Now this is a regular cut design. This is not a print and cut design, but I'm going to show you how they work together. I right-clicked on it and I'm going to change the position settings. I'm going to click hold aspect ratio and I'm going to make the width 2 inches. And I'm doing this because I'm also going to resize the clocks to a 2-inch square. So again, I'm going to just click on that, right-click and choose position settings, and I'm going to change that to 2 inches. Now you can see if I click and drag it over here, it's going to fit right behind that little circle border. So for my layout, that's how this was achieved. So I'm going to go ahead and resize all of those clocks. Now I use different colors for all of my clocks. If you wanted to do all green, you can copy and paste that green one 5 times or however many times you want. But for this particular layout, I wanted lots of colors, so I went ahead and I resized them all and printed them all. I'm not going to use each of the clocks, but I went ahead and did it because I wasn't sure at the time which ones I wanted. Now I'm going to move the phrase into here. And you can see that the cut line on it is rounded corners. And for my layout, I want it to go right next to my 4x6 photo that does not have rounded corners. So I don't really want that look. So I'm just going to ungroup it and remove that cut line. Then I'm going to go to my library and type in square. And it will bring up a whole bunch of square designs. And there are some nesting squares that'll be perfect, that have a nice 90-degree corner. And I'm going to choose those. Those are rounded. Where is the ones? There they are. And I'm going to just click those and drop them into my software. And I'm going to ungroup again this design because I only need one of those squares. So I'm going to just move a few things out of the way real quick. Okay, so I just need one of those. And I'm going to right click, change the position settings, and make it a 4-inch square. Very simple and easy. Oh, better drag and click all of that and get rid of those real fast. And I just clicked each of them and deleted. Not too hard to do. Okay, now I'm going to change the size of that square. You could have chosen a scallop square, even a circle, all kinds of different things. If it will, fit around it, you could cut this into a lot of different shapes. So you can see, I'm just going to drop that in there kind of where it looks good, lines up well with the design. Then I'm going to click and drag around that entire thing, and I'll click the group button up at the top of my screen so that it groups that. So now that when I move it, it moves all as one piece. So there is what it looks like with the non-rounded corners. And I could see as I was bringing everything into my document that it wasn't going to quite fit. Unfortunately, these tabs, you can't really just use one individual one. Some designs you can, like you can see on the clocks, that I could move those around. So what I do is I move them up, and you can see that red bounding box in between the blue and black tabs. It will print what you can see, but it won't cut anything outside that. So this just gives me more room to play with the designs I'm using. Okay, I had that tag somewhere. It's over on the right side of my screen. I'm going to drop that in. And just going to check the settings on it, and that looks about right. So I'm not really going to change anything for that. I'm just going to move it up a little bit and go ahead and add the rest of the clocks. Now for this particular layout, I am using all print and cut embellishments, but not for every layout would you do that. So it would be a lot of wasted paper. Especially, I recommend using photo paper, and that's expensive, so you don't want to waste a whole sheet. So I usually, even if I'm not going to use all the designs on that particular project, I will bring in a whole bunch of designs that I think I might use, especially those tabs. Those are one of those things you can just throw on a layout real quickly, and I'll just print and cut a whole bunch of things at once, and then I have them. The next time I'm doing a project, I don't have to cut them specifically for something. So now I'm ready to print the designs that you see, and I'm just going to click the little printer icon on the toolbar at the top of the screen. And I have already set it up for my photo paper. You could change it to regular paper too if you were printing something else. And you can see it's printing, or it's outputting it to my printer. And that's what it looks like once it's printed. It will print some registration marks in the corners, and it'll also tell you what way to put it on your cutting mat. Once I have it on my cutting mat, I'm going to load it into my silhouette. For this machine, you push a button to load it, but if you have the original model, you'll just, roll it in. And then I have gone ahead, or I clicked the cut button and it's searching the registration marks. So you can see it goes to each of those 3 corners and checks for it. And then I will go ahead and push OK and it will start cutting. And we're not going to watch the whole cutting because that's kind of boring and it has lots of things it needs to cut here. But just to give you an idea of how that works. So once it is finished cutting, you can see, and I also make sure that I run it through twice or copy and paste it so it cuts twice. And you have some perfectly die cut embellishments for your project. Very simple. So I'm going to pop all of these out. Kind of stuck to my mat, it's sticky. There is my phrase with the square corners. More clocks. And then the tag. And it does die cut the little circle out of it. And this is one of those print and cuts that kind of has a couple pieces and you'll just put it together. Very easy. It's stuck on there pretty good, so I'm going to need to pull that up. There we go. So you can just put a little adhesive behind that. And it's a nice kind of, adds just a little dimension. It makes it not so flat, not such a flat embellishment. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is go ahead and cut my circle border. So I just copied that open circle border and I'm going to create a new document. This one does not need the registration marks or anything like that since I'm going to be cutting this from paper, or cardstock rather, and not out of photo paper and not printing anything. And then I'm going to go ahead and follow the same basic steps for cutting out of cardstock. So I cut that out of some black cardstock. I'm just going to choose the index 90 setting with the pink cutting tip. I also did that for cutting through the photo paper. It's my most used setting. I use it for almost everything. Okay, the next thing I'm going to show you is how to create your own print and cut. This is a very simplified version. You could get very in-depth with this. In a photo editing program, this is Photoshop Elements. Just happens to be on the same computer that I use my Silhouette. I don't normally use this, but this is what I'm using today. I made a new document. It's a 4x4 box. And I am just creating a couple of layers, text layers, typing in a couple of words. Here I typed March out of one font. I'm going to go up and change my font to something else. Looking for the Cry Kitty font, which is a free font available from dafont.com, DAFONT.com. And it's kind of a distressy, looks kind of like a foam stamp. I'm going to change the color of this of the date. Pick to green. Oops. I'm going to type the date, and then I'm going to move that right next to my first text layer. And there is what that looks like. Once I have my text in, like I said, you could add some digital background paper to this or whatever. I'm going to flatten my image. Nothing special on mine. A white tab was fine. I'm going to save that somewhere easy as a JPEG. I save mine to my desktop just because it's going to make it easy here in a minute to drag and drop it right into my Craft Robo software. So I'm going to get out of this screen and going to go right back to the Silhouette. Use registration marks. I also need the letter size setting. It would have been smart if I would have done this and print and cut this with the rest of my images, but I didn't think of it till later. So same screen. Here is the file on my desktop. I'm going to drag and drop it right in to my Craft Robo software. Move that down a little bit. Then I'm going to go to my library and I need to find a tab. There's lots of tab punches and things like that, but being with the silhouette, I can cut all kinds of different tabs. There's a whole bunch of cute ones. I'm going to go for a pretty basic one for this sample, but you could do all kinds of different things. I mean, almost anything you wanted. Then I'm going to resize that just a little bit, make it a little bit smaller. And I have created my own very simple print and cut. It's just going to print the date on this tab, and then I will cut it out following the same steps that I did before with the silhouette print and cut images. For more information on this class, please visit the Education Forum at www.2peasinabucket.com. Thanks for watching.